Greetings, fellow pop culture fans, and welcome to this edition of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, if there is a lost art you'd like me to investigate, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for a good adventure. With that in mind, let's see what today's topic is. In this episode, we will be covering the top 5 Batman movies that lost their way to modern audiences. Now, folks, if you thought you knew everything about The Dark Knight and even international copyright laws for that matter, think again, because we are about to travel across 60 years of film history to discover the lost adventures of The Dark Knight. So with that in mind, let's power up the Batmobile. Number 5, Ivan Reitman's Batman. Fresh off the success of the 1978 film Superman the movie, Warner Brothers wanted to fast-track yet another one of its DC characters to the silver screen. And yes, although Batman already had an outing with Adam West wearing the tights and cowl, this outing was intended to tone down on the oversized bombs and shark repellent, sacrificing hijinks for a little bit more of a serious tone. Just a little bit. This Batman film would be written by veteran James Bond writer Tom Mankiewicz and Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman. Yes, that Ivan Reitman. Now, if those creative choices raise your eyebrows, wait until you hear about the main casting. We almost had Peter Venkman as Bruce Wayne and Prince Akeem Zamunda as Robin. Oh, and the finale of the film was supposed to take place on a giant typewriter with Batman, Robin, and the Joker outwitting each other by hitting the right keys to mash their enemies into printer's ink. But on the upside, we would have had David Bowie playing the Joker, so it's got that going for it. Also, Adam West was supposed to play Thomas Wayne, Batman's father, in the biggest movie meta move until the creation of Deadpool, so it's not all terrible, I guess. But in the end, Warner Brothers decided to scrap this version of the Batman script as each of the creatives went on to their own unique projects. By the end of the 80s, Warner Brothers then tapped Tim Burton for the Batman movie, and the rest is history. Now, my fellow Raiders, if this film were actually made, I would love to see it. But I honestly think this would bomb, and it would bomb terribly. It would be a financial flop. It'd be a laughingstock with critics and fans, and this is why. You have silly things like Bill Murray as Batman, Eddie Murphy as Robin, a giant typewriter action set piece being done in a movie about a character who in the comics keeps getting darker and darker. It's kind of an interesting thing here, folks, with, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, juxtaposing just how dark that source material is to something that is extremely camp, like fighting on a typewriter. My goodness, that's memeable material there. So that's my opinion on this. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. Number 4, Batman Unchained, directed by Joel Schumacher. During the filming of Batman and Robin, the executives at Warner Brothers were so impressed with the production of this future cinematic crime against nature that they decided to greenlight a sequel with all the cast, George Clooney, Chris O'Donnell, and Joel Schumacher, for a 5th follow-up called Batman Unchained. In this story, Harley Quinn, the inexplicable daughter of Jack Nicholson's Joker, teams up with the Scarecrow, and the two use a fear toxin to bring back almost all the villains from the previous Batman movies to terrorize our Caped Crusader in violent hallucinations. Now, considering Batman Unchained is a direct sequel to Batman and Robin, a film so heinous it's considered to be cruel and unusual punishment in most of the free world, I probably don't have to tell you why this movie didn't get made. But I do have one comment to the Warner Brothers executive who greenlit Batman Unchained while watching the production of Batman and Robin. And here goes.
You are made of stupid.
Now, my fellow Raiders, if we did live in a bizarro universe in which Batman Unchained was made because Batman and Robin was as good as Citizen Kane, I can still see this movie flopping, or at the very least underperforming, for this one reason. The budget would have been massive. This film theoretically brings back the main villains from the first 3 Batman films, some of whom are played by actors who got bigger salaries than Bruce Wayne himself. You would need Spider-Man No Way Home level returns to pay off that kind of budget. And I don't see that happening in the late 90s in America. The attitude towards comic books at that time, comic book movies, was just not there. So I see this film very clearly underperforming, if not outright flopping. What do you think? Number 3, Batman fights Dracula. Unlike other movies in this episode, fellow Raiders, Batman fights Dracula actually got made. What makes it lost is that no modern audience has seen it. It was an unauthorized Filipino movie made by Leah and Fidelis Productions, and it admittedly takes a lot of creative liberties with the Batman lore, but it's still very fascinating to see. In this story, Batman's arch nemesis, the evil Dr. Zorba, reanimates Dracula through electroshock treatments and tasks the titular vampire with creating an evil army of the undead to kill Batman and presumably take over the world. Luckily, Batman, his off-brand sidekick Ruben, and his love interest Marita manage to lure Dracula back into Dr. Zorba's lair so he can kill his own creator, and the day is saved. Now, fellow Raiders, all I can say about this is, wow, this story and the way in which it takes creative license with established Batman lore, I'm at a loss for words. It's actually kind of hysterical realizing that this kind of story exists. It reminds me very much of the World War II Batman serials, which many DC comic book fans consider non-canon. I almost included those in this video, but I decided to go with this one instead because oh my gosh, it's kind of interesting. Batman doesn't even have his bat signal on his chest. He has something else. It's kind of hysterical. If you want me to do the World War II Batman serials, I can do that in a follow-up. Please let me know in the comments below. Based on the successful animated series of the same name, Batman Beyond would have taken place in Gotham City during the year 2039, with a retired Bruce Wayne training his protege, Terry McGinnis, on how to become the next Caped Crusader. Individuals close to the production of this movie, such as Boaz Yakin, the director, have likened Batman Beyond as a spiritual successor to the 1998 Western The Mask of Zorro. And with good reason, the parallels are definitely striking. Both feature stories of an older legacy character passing on the torch to the next generation. And both had the best actors of their era serving as the mentor character. Just as the original Zorro was played by Anthony Hopkins in 1998, Batman Beyond would have featured Clint Eastwood as the elder Bruce Wayne. But we never saw Dirty Harry pass on the cape and cowl to the next generation because the studio executives at Warner Brothers felt that the script was too dark and nihilistic to be filmed. Now, fellow Raiders, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. I think that this film could actually be made. We live in an era now in which we have Michael Keaton coming back to the DC extended universe. It wouldn't take any effort at all to hire him to play what Clint Eastwood would have played in Batman Beyond. I'd be very interested to see that. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on who Terry McGinnis should play, who should play Terry McGinnis. Let me know in the comments below. I'm very curious your thoughts there. Number 1, Batman versus Godzilla. You heard that right. In 1954, Godzilla rose to the world stage as a cautionary tale about the side effects of atomic warfare. By the 1960s, he was the heavyweight champion of the world, seeking to defend his title by beating up any oversized lizard, moth, or monkey that crossed his path. Immediately after the success of King Kong vs. Godzilla in 1962, Japanese screenwriter Shinichi Sekisawa shifted his sights away from giant monsters of the Far East to superheroes of the Far West. The story starts with Commissioner Gordon and his daughter Barbara visiting Japan on vacation when suddenly an evil scientist named Klaus Finster threatens the world with a doomsday machine capable of leveling all of Tokyo. In typical supervillain fashion from his underground volcanic lair, Klaus holds the world hostage for $20 million in gold. Hoping to avoid a worldwide catastrophe and to salvage his vacation, Commissioner Gordon summons Batman and Robin on his bat phone. And soon our heroes discover that Klaus's doomsday machine is actually Godzilla himself. In a finale reminiscent of a classic James Bond movie, Batgirl saves Batman and Robin from a gas chamber disguised as a taxi, The trio lure Godzilla into a trap with a mating call, and our heroes shoot Godzilla into space, never to return again. Until the sequel. Now, it's worth mentioning that DC Comics never signed off on this treatment. And we all now know that you can't make a Batman movie without DC's explicit blessing. So Batman vs. Godzilla disappeared into those footnotes of history. But what do you think? Which of these 5 lost arts has your money? Which of these would you spend money to see in the theater? Let me know in the comments below, and if you would like me to feature a new lost art, please also let me know. We make one of these about once a month. Take care.